Wendell are home from their honeymoon, but now our condo is empty except for the 2 stools at the kitchen counter. Wendell has a set of 4 that he's bringing for the kitchen in the new house, and when we all eat together, we'll sit at a new, long dining room table with space for 100 seats and a high chair. We're leaving our stools behind for the couple moving in, so they can have nice, quiet dinners, just the 2 of them. Everything we're taking is packed away under our carport, and the stuff we're not bringing, including my bed, is at the end of our driveway. Mom's giving it to someone to sell at a yard sale, and I'm getting Mom's big bed because she'll be sharing with Wendell now. That feels weird, and I don't like thinking about it, so I shake it out of my brain because it also means no more early morning stories in her room. I guess maybe I'm getting too big for those anyway. Our front door opens, and Maximilian walks in. He lives in the end unit with his grandparents, and we stopped knocking on each other's doors as soon as we were big enough to reach the knob and turn. "It looks weird in here," he says, looking around. Yeah, it does. I try not to think about all the important things that happened in this condo. I took my first step in the backyard and decorated soccer ball birthday cupcakes with Mom at this counter, and ran the same route through the woods to the perfect climbing tree with Maximilian so many times that we stomped a path wide enough for us to run side by side. He taught me to read in that tree. And when we continued the path through to the other side of the woods, into the schoolyard playground, I taught him how to go across the monkey bars. He shoves the glasses back up his nose. "I wanted to say bye, except it's not really bye, because I'll see you in school."
"Oh, Maximilian, you're welcome over anytime," my mom says. "You know that, and you don't have to knock on our new door either."
Except Maximilian and I know that's not true. It won't be the same. Because Bryce doubles over and laughs when Kenny and Morris start breathing hard and pretend to spin out of control and yell, "Help, I'm having a Max attack!" And who wants to walk through their own bully's door, even if their only friend lives there too? It's easy to not be nice to Maximilian. That's why some kids pick on him. His glasses are thick and slide down his nose 100 times a minute, and he likes things particular ways, and if they don't go that way, then he starts breathing hard and shaking his head no. And unless you really know him, you wouldn't know that he just needed a desk that's an even number away from the door, but the teacher assigned him to the 3rd one in, or that he needed to start walking with his left foot stepping first, but everyone got a little too close during lineup, and he had to step with his right. And not everyone knows that he has a spot between his thumb and pointer finger that you can squeeze, and sometimes it helps him breathe normally again and stop shaking. And not everyone knows that when his mom comes to visit, he runs away to our tree in the woods. And when she comes knocking at our door, I never give up his hiding place. And I wait until she's driven off before I follow our stomped-down path and join him there. "I'm pretty sure our walkie-talkies won't reach," he says. I didn't even think of that, and now I'm feeling worse. "I'll try you tonight," I tell him. But I already know he's right. My mom and his grandparents have a no cell phones until high school rule, so we saved up our allowances and got these cheap walkie-talkies at a yard sale when we were in 4th grade so we could talk past curfew. The signal was weak, but our condos were only 28 steps apart. Maximilian counted. Wendell pulls up to the curb in a long moving truck and toots the horn twice. He puts the truck in park and hops down. Mom smiles at Maximilian and says, "Remember, anytime." Then she walks out and Wendell hugs her in the front yard, and I hear him say, "Happy day, Louise." I'm pretty sure he's about to start snorting, but Mom says, "Don't you get all weepy on me right now, mister. We have a truck to load." I can tell Wendell wants to make this a big moment, like saying "I do" and walking down the aisle as husband and wife. but Mom is clapping her hands like chop chop. "Well, I guess I'll see you," Maximilian says. He puts his hands on the sides of my shoulders, which is his version of a hug. "Okay," I say. Cameron pulls up in Wendell's car and parks in front of the moving truck. Tucker hops out of the passenger seat, and a basketball rolls after him. He dribbles it in our driveway a couple of times, but then stuffs it back in the car. Tucker loves watching sports, but he isn't very coordinated, and he doesn't want to do anything that could even possibly injure his hands, because somehow he can make his fingers fly over the piano keys like it's nothing. Bryce opens the back door, and Dodger and Roscoe bound out and sniff around the mailbox. They both mark their territory, and it makes me mad because this is my territory. At least for another hour. Maximilian leaves out the back, and I go through the front door to the yard. Wendell puts his hand on my mom's belly and tells her to sit on the old lawn chair at the end of the driveway and relax.
"We have enough hands. And paws."
Too many, I'm thinking. She starts to protest, but Aunt Tam comes flying out the front door of her condo and says, "Don't you dare lift a finger, Embers." Mom huffs and sits, and Wendell says,
"Glad she'll listen to you."
Wendell, Cameron, Tucker, and Aunt Tam start loading the truck with our things. I drag my soccer net down the driveway, but it's not new, and the pieces are loose, so the crossbar keeps popping out from the posts. I prop it up in the truck between a couch and a dresser. Bryce is sitting on the grass, trying to soothe Fred, who is screeching in his cat cage. "It's okay, Freddy Fred. We're almost home." Both dogs are circling Bryce and panting and rolling over for belly rubs. All the animals love Bryce the best, and I have no idea why. I also have no idea how he called the new house home already. Home to me will always be this condo. Mom points to me and then to Bryce and then to the bookshelf under the carport. I hesitate, and she raises her eyebrows and mouths, "Go." I sigh and shrug and try to move the bookshelf myself, but it'll take me forever to wiggle inch it down the driveway like this. Mom's watching me and pointing to Bryce like I should ask him for help, but I'm not asking him for any help. I got this. Then Wendell butts in and says,
"Bryce, go give Bea a hand."
"I'll be right back, Freddy Fred," Bryce says, and pats the cage. Then he jogs down the driveway and grabs a side. "1, 2, 3, he prompts, and we lift and hobble down the driveway sideways. But I don't need his help, so I lift my side higher and move my feet faster, and he whines, "Quit it, Bea," and I say, "Just keep up, Bryce," and we shuffle up the ramp into the truck, and Wendell helps us lay it down. Then Bryce runs back to Fred. This feels weird already. Our lamps and throw pillows and bookshelves are all mixed up in the back of the truck with their couch and piano and kitchen stools and living room chairs. When we're done loading, Tucker climbs into the back of the truck and sticks his hands under the piano cover. And without even looking at the keys, he plays a song about goodbye, farewell, and something in another language.
"From the Sound of Music,"
he hollers, and I know he's trying to be nice and funny. But I'm still just sad. I hug Aunt Tam like we're moving to Alaska instead of Evergreen Road. "I'm going to miss sharing a wall with you," she tells me, even if the first year was all crying. That makes my eyes burn, thinking about how Aunt Tam knew me from the very beginning. But I bite my tongue in the back of my mouth and tell her I'll visit 100 times a week. She hugs my mom, too. "I'm happy for you," she says. "Now go blend." Cameron gets in Wendell's car, and Bryce lifts Fred's cage into the back with him. Dodger and Roscoe follow and curl up on the seat beside him. Tucker asks if he can drive, but Cameron says no, and Tucker says, "Oh, come on," and Cameron says, "Just get in," and Tucker says, "You stink," and Cameron says, "You've had your license for like 5 minutes." Then finally, Mom says,
"Tucker, why don't you drive my car? I'd like to go in the truck anyway,"
and hands him her keys. Tucker hollers, "Yes, thanks, Louise," and slams the door to our Toyota Camry. And I'm thinking, really? We're sharing cars now, too? Wendell, Mom, and I climb into the front bench seat of the moving truck. Wendell by the window, me in the middle, and Mom and the curve of her belly in the driver's seat. We pull away from the curb, and away from the condo, and away from Aunt Tam and Maximilian, and the stomped-down path to our climbing tree with Cameron and Tucker and Bryce and Dodger and Roscoe and Fred following behind us. It takes us 3 minutes to get there, but it feels like 100 miles away from where I belong. As Mom is backing the truck into our new driveway, I check out the house across the road. The rebound soccer net is still set up, and the garage doors are open. There aren't as many boxes in there now. Cameron and Tucker park the cars on the road out front, and Wendell helps Mom and me down from the truck and pulls us to the lawn. He waves the boys over, and the dogs come bounding, and Bryce carries Fred, still screeching in his cage. Then Wendell takes a deep breath and brings us all into a hug that feels sweaty and dog panty, and I know Wendell wants some special blended family huddle, but I just smush into my mom's shoulder, and she sneaks me a little Embers Girls hip check.
"I love you all so much,"
Wendell says. But before he can start snorting, the cat screeches again and ruins the moment. It's the first time I've ever liked that cat. "Can we go inside now? Fred is freaking out." Bryce holds the cage in a hug. Wendell takes Mom's hand, and a dramatic breath like life will never be the same as soon as we walk in that door. And I'll tell you one thing. He's right.
"Ready?"
he asks. Mom links her arm in mine and says,
"Come on."
I'm hoping the house will seem different than the last time I walked in with Mom and Wendell and the realtor. It was awkward then, like I was walking through a museum of another family's stuff. When we toured through their house, Mom kept telling me to imagine us living there. Imagine our stuff.
"Can't you see us baking cookies in this kitchen?"
she asked. I gave her a look that said, "We don't even bake cookies in our condo." Then she said,
"Oh, fine. Can't you imagine us eating cereal in this kitchen?"
She was beaming and running her hand over the tiniest curve of her belly, and so I just nodded and said, "Yeah, I could see that." Wendell holds up the key and asks,
"Who would like to do the honors?"
"You do it, Louise," Tucker says. My mom nods and turns the key and pushes open the door, and we all step in. And it doesn't feel like a museum anymore. It feels like an empty, echoey cave that smells like new paint. Bryce rushes to the middle of the living room and opens Fred's cage. The squealing stops the second he pulls the cat out. "Sorry, Fred," he says. "But we're home now. No more cage." The cat rubs his head against Bryce's chest and starts purring. Then the dogs burst in behind us, panting and wagging, and the boys run up the stairs to check out their bedrooms. I feel Mom next to me.
"What do you think?"
"A little empty," I answer. She nods.
"Agreed, but it'll fill up fast."
I'm pretty sure Mom's talking about filling it with furniture and memories and stuff, but I'm thinking about bodies. It'll fill up with Wendell and Cameron and Tucker and Bryce and Dodger and Roscoe and Fred and a new baby, and it'll never be just the Embers Girls anymore, at the counter, on 2 stools, with corn pops and elbow room. Mom takes my hand.
"Come on."
We follow the boys up the stairs. There are 4 small bedrooms, and Mom promised I would have my own. Cameron and Tucker are sharing because Cameron will be a senior this year, and colleges are already offering him swim team scholarships. So they'll only be sharing for a year before he moves into a dorm room somewhere. He's the best butterflyer in New England, and every once in a while, when we drive to the lake, he'll do a few strokes and fly across the roped-in area, his shoulders and arms lifting out of the water and stretching back under. And everyone stops and points and says, "Look at him go." They decide they are going to split the room, literally, with a sheet down the middle. When Cameron graduates, Tucker will take the sheet down, and a year after that, Tucker will graduate too, and probably go to some amazing school for music. Then maybe the baby will move in. Bryce has his own room, and so do I. Mom and Wendell have a bathroom in their bedroom, and the other bathroom has a shower and 2 sinks, and Wendell keeps calling it the kids' bathroom, like we're all part of the same family, like we're all just their kids now. Cameron and Tucker are measuring the width of their room by counting toe-to-heel footsteps. 24, Cameron says. Then he walks back 12 and stands in the middle and stretches out his long butterfly arms and says, "This is the imaginary line." They start arguing about who gets the side with most of the window, and Mom nudges me into the hallway and toward my room. It's square and empty, and smaller than Cameron and Tucker's, but it's bigger than my room in the condo, and it has a closet and a ceiling fan and a window that looks out over our sloping backyard.
"It'll feel like yours in no time," Mom says.
She's walking around and pointing to where my bed could go and the bookshelf. But I cross my arms and say no, that my bed will have to go on the other side, away from that wall, because that's the wall I share with Bryce, and I want to sleep as far away from him as I can. Mom takes a breath and runs her hand over her belly, and I feel like a huge brat, but I can't help it. She rolls her eyes and says,
"Okay, how about your shelves, though? Can those touch this side, or do you think it's too risky and your books might get contaminated?"
That makes me laugh a little, even though I don't want to, and Mom pulls me into a hug and says,
"I love you, Bee."
I can feel her bump between us. Then I hear Tucker calling from downstairs. "Bee!" I walk to the top of the stairs and look down at him. "There's a new girl who lives across the road. She's in your class and she plays soccer. Come down." Mom's standing next to me now and giving me a look like, "Bee, go." I walk down and out the front door, and the girl is in her yard juggling a soccer ball in a blue dress and strappy sandals. She's taller than I am and has a serious shin guard tan below her knees, and every time she steps, I can see muscles flex in her legs. "She can juggle longer than I can," Tucker says. I want to tell him that's not saying much at all. I give a half wave to the girl. She waves back and doesn't miss a beat with juggling. I'm starting to think she might be able to juggle longer than I can, too, and I know I'm supposed to say something like, "Whoa, nice skills," but I don't want to because soccer's my thing, and everyone in our town knows that. There are other girls who play, like Nell and Fern and Kara from my grade in school, but they haven't been playing forever like I have. They only started in 4th grade. This girl looks like she might have been playing forever. Then, the girl dead traps the ball and calls, "I'm Eliana. People call me A." "I'm B," I say. She kind of laughs a little and taps the ball between her feet. "I'm going into 6th grade. Then Tucker jumps in. "So is B, and so is my brother Bryce. He's upstairs." "He's not my brother, though," I tell her. And I can see her face scrunch up like she's trying to figure out how the heck that all works, because if you're not from our town already, then we'll have to explain it. "Well, I guess now he's your stepbrother," Tucker says. I don't like that term, step. It sounds like they're a step-in, like a substitute for a player who never showed up, or one who got tired and had to leave the game early. and here come Wendell and Cameron and Tucker and Bryce and Dodger and Roscoe and Fred to step in. But we were fine, just Mom and me. A solid team. Their dad married my mom, I explain. Oh, cool, she says. Then Tucker points to her soccer ball. Bea plays too. She's really good. She nods and says, awesome, and tells me she's been playing on a travel team all summer, and then goes on and on about how they scored in the last minute of their final game, and it went past overtime and ended in a shootout, and the whole time she's talking, I'm thinking, not fair. Then she flicks the ball up and balances it on her instep. Where did you play this summer? I'm about to say, just on my own down at the rec fields, and tell her that sometimes my Grandma Bea would come cheer me on, or my Aunt Tam would set up pine cones to dribble around, and every once in a while I'd see some of the boys from school down there shooting on goal. But even in my head, it sounds small. Like she really is some A is for Aliana all-star, and I'm just B. So I pretend I didn't hear her and say, I should probably go help unpack. I gesture toward the house. Oh, okay. Then she flicks the ball up, strikes it hard against the rebound net, smooths out her dress, and I'm thinking, who dresses like that to play soccer? By dinner that night, the moving truck is empty, and the garage is full of boxes. Wendell and Cameron return the truck while Tucker and Bryce move the furniture to where Mom points. One step to the left, right there, she says, and they lower the couch against the living room wall. Then they position Tucker's piano into the corner. The 4 stools from their house are pushed into the kitchen counter, and a rug that used to be in their TV room is rolled out across the floor. Mom disappears into the garage and comes back with our 2 throw pillows from the condo and tosses them in the corners of the couch. They don't look right. She helps me make my bed and push it to the not Bryce side of my new room. We shake out her old comforter until the down is all light and feathery, lifting it above our heads and letting it settle slowly onto the sheets. It's the same blue comforter I'd snuggle under for a story when I'd wake up early in the condo and tiptoe into her room. She fluffs my pillows, too, and helps me center the bookshelf on the opposite wall, the Cher Bryce wall, and we each lift a side of my desk until it's under the window. I put my walkie-talkie on the windowsill and slide my boxes of clothes across the floor. But I don't have any hangers yet. They're somewhere in the garage. So I just sit on the edge of my bed, and Mom sits next to me. See? Feels better already. I nod, and she pats my hand with hers. Her finger has a new ring on it, too, and unlike Wendell, she's never had one before. Never even wanted one. Only wanted me. I know, she says. It'll take time. Sitting with her here in my new room doesn't actually feel so bad. But it doesn't last more than a minute before we hear Wendell and Cameron get home and start carrying boxes from the garage into the bedrooms and bathrooms upstairs. Then the doorbell rings, and the sound isn't just a ding-dong chime like the condo. It's an 8-note little jingly song that sounds like Christmas. My mom and I look at each other and make a face like we just took a bite of corn pops and the milk was sour. That's going to have to change, we say together, and it makes us laugh a little while we stand up. Can someone please open the door before they ring that bell again? Mom calls down the stairs. I kind of like it, Wendell says. It's happy. Mom gives him a look. It's me or the bell, Wen? He laughs and puts his hand on the knob. I don't get doorbells anyway, she says. If you want something, you knock until you get an answer. That's what she did when she was 6 months pregnant with me and 50 hours short of her training to becoming a paramedic. She'd been an EMT for 5 years, pumping chests and giving breath and keeping bodies alive in the back of ambulances while they sped to the hospital in Burlington. And she wasn't about to give up her training for desk work until after I came. So she knocked hard on her supervisor's door. And before he could say anything, she walked right past him, picked up the free weights in his office, and did 60 squats and 35 lifts. And when she dropped the weights to his floor, she said,
"I think I can manage the work for another 50 hours. I got this."
She wouldn't have met Wendell if she hadn't finished those 50 hours, if she hadn't become a paramedic, if she hadn't knocked on that door. The guys who rang our jingly bell are here to deliver the new dining table and chairs. They turn it sideways, slide it through the door, and make a tight turn around the corner to where Mom is pointing. They unwind the bubble wrap from all the parts, screw on the legs, carry in the 8 chairs, dust off the surfaces, and say,
"That should do it."
Mom signs something and thanks the guys, and before they've closed the front door, Wendell is running his hands over the edges and saying,
"What are we waiting for? Let's try this out."
He takes his phone from his pocket to order dinner and smiles at Mom when he says,
"Actually, no. We've changed our address. 63 Evergreen Road."
He knows all of our orders by heart. I do too. We've had Chinese food enough together over the past 2 years since our first blended dinner. I was in 4th grade and I didn't want to go to Bryce Valentine's house, but Mom said,
"Give it a try is all I ask."
Bryce had been bragging in school about his 2 new chocolate lab puppies, so I said okay, but I made it clear I was going for the puppies. The Chinese food came in 3 different bags, and we didn't all fit at the Valentine's table. So Bryce and I sat on the stools at their counter, which was only 5 steps away from the table, but felt like we were on a separate island. Dodger and Roscoe were squirmy and nippy, but wouldn't leave Bryce's feet, even when we ate. Those became our seats every time we went to the Valentines for dinner. Wendell, Mom, Cameron, and Tucker at the table, and Bryce and me at the counter arguing about whose elbow was crossing the invisible line between us, with Dodger and Roscoe at our feet. The Valentines would come to the condo too sometimes, and we'd all have pizza on the living room floor and watch the Olympics or the World Cup, which I didn't mind so much because Tucker knows a lot about sports and can't sit still when he's watching a close game. Tonight is different, because even though Wendell ordered the same 3 bags of Chinese food we've always ordered, tonight we're all sitting around the same table. And when we finish, no one is going home because we all live here now. Mom sits at one head of the table, and Wendell sits at the other. Cameron and I take up one side, facing Bryce and Tucker on the other. Dodger and Roscoe, who are definitely not puppies anymore, slide their thick bodies between Cameron and my chairs and curl up, one on each of Bryce's feet. Fred jumps on the windowsill behind Wendell and meows as we open the bags of takeout. Mom and I share a little corner of the table, and even though I'm expecting dinner to be weird, it isn't really. Maybe it's because I have my same order from Joyce's Chinese, number 18, shrimp lo mein. Or maybe it's because even if the rest of the house is a mishmash of Valentine stuff with Ember's stuff, this table is no one's, like we're playing on a neutral site. It isn't until we have to take turns in the bathroom brushing our teeth, until it's time to get into pajamas, and when we start coming downstairs for cups of water and to search for a book or a phone charger, that it starts to feel weird. Every family has a time when no one else knows them. When you turn off the TV, take a shower, brush your teeth, unwind the rubber band from your hair, shimmy out of your pajama pants under the covers, and keep them stuffed in the bottom of your bed so they're warm for you in the morning. When you wake early and walk down the hall to your mom's room for a story beneath her comforter before breakfast. It's weird to see Wendell and Cameron and Tucker and Bryce in those in-between times. When Mom tucks me in tonight, she closes the door and sits on the edge of my bed and kisses my forehead like she always does. She tells me she loves me all the way up to the Care Bears, which is our thing, and when she rubs the curve of her belly and gets up to leave, I don't tap my goodnight knock knock knockety knock on the wall to Aunt Tam. And I keep my pajama pants on, because even under the comforter, and even with the door closed, it feels weird to take them off. Like if I have to pee in the middle of the night and I wander in the dark to the bathroom, I might see Wendell or Cameron or Tucker or Bryce, or trip over a dog and wake up the whole house, and someone would turn on the light, and then I'd be in my underwear. I reach for the walkie-talkie and turn the dial on top. Static. "Pete to Maximilian. Over," I whisper. But it's just static and static and static. When I close my eyes and try to sleep, I have to bite my tongue in the back of my mouth and think, I got this.